Hi everybody, Dr. Sally J. Rundle here, and welcome to another strategy from my book, More Energy, More You. Now this one didn't make it into the first edition, however I think it's very helpful right now for what's going on as we navigate change and conflict and uncertainty in our worlds. It comes from the Cognitive Awakeners section and it's called Your Inner Counsel. It's designed to help you advise yourself to find the best possible options. And it's also very useful for harnessing that inner self-talk and finding better options and solutions. Have you noticed that inside your head, well certainly inside my head, it can often get very busy and very noisy. And the same voices tend to show up and direct and take charge. And that these voices are not always the best ones that I want to have when I'm navigating change or navigating uncertainty. Each of them have a very specific pattern and they've probably been around for a very long time and in fact feel quite familiar. Now this strategy is designed to let go of the grip of these self-designated inner counselors and connect you with a much more centered and grounded and wise board of directors and advisors. For many of us, our thoughts and our kind of conversations can happen inside our head quite unconsciously. We're not always aware that we're thinking what we're thinking. Isn't that interesting? Now, Virginia Satir, she's a famous family therapist and did some brilliant pioneering work. And she identified 3 default communication patterns that happen when we face conflict situations and change. And these patterns are activated when we don't feel safe and we want to move away and protect ourselves. They are the persecutor, the rescuer, and the victim. Each of these have a specific persona. They have a certain tone and a set of behaviours that go with them. They are there to help us, or we think they're there to help us cope with fear and stress and any other uncomfortable emotion. So let's have a look at these 3. The persecutor. The persecutor will look for somewhere to place blame. The persecutor pattern tends to go on attack and it uses anger and criticism. The rescuer seeks to smooth over and wants to placate and avoid conflict, appease others and get approval. And the victim tends to take a passive stance, feeling helpless and shrinking away. Now these 3 patterns can be activated by external triggers but also can happen inside our own heads as we perceive things and make sense of things around us. We tend to have a dominant default pattern. Now we may have learnt this from being in our family, the culture we've grown up in, and it's been our way of coping and protecting ourselves when things don't feel comfortable or they're uncertain. How do we deal with this? And how do we resource ourselves in a different way and connect to a much more kind of wise side and advising side of ourselves? Well, the first thing is to notice who's showing up, paying attention to that inner self-talk and notice who's on your inner counsel, what the tone is, what they're saying to you, and then we can make some choices. We name it. So if the persecutor's in the space, persecutor can also show up as the critic, as the pusher, as the controller, but pretty much it'll be saying to you, whatever you're doing, you're not getting it right, you're not good enough, you're not trying hard enough, and there'll be a lot of criticism and you'll start to feel very inadequate and there'll be a lot of blame. And so we can turn that harsh kind of critic on ourselves, right? The rescuer, if the rescuer's in the space, the most kind of focus will be on other people, trying to fix other people, solve their problems, put the attention outward. There'll be a lot of self-martyring, there'll be a lot of self-sacrificing. But really when the rescuer's in the space, usually it means that we're focusing out there instead of in here where the feelings are really uncomfortable and we want to avoid that. We want to smooth it over. Now, if the victim's showing up, the victim will be a very self-absorbed stance. So their focus will be very internal, feeling helpless, feeling like not good enough, and we'll be making lots of comparisons. So we'll be comparing you to other people, what's happening in other people's lives, and generally the impact on you is you'll feel inadequate, insufficient, pretty much like you're isolated and you're a very big loser. What do we do? Number one, acknowledge that they're in the space. Name them. I notice that the persecutor is in the space, or the rescuer or the victim, or I'm noticing I'm showing up with this pattern. As soon as you do that, you start to create more space and get more control. Then you might want to ask yourself a question. What are my options right now? What if I was to try this? That might be one question. Or you might ask yourself, what needs to happen next? What's the next action that I can take? Or what resources do I need right now to actually move this forward? Or you might kind of give yourself a hug and say, hey, what do you need right now to actually, move this along or to feel okay? And remember, I've got your back and it's all going to be okay and we can do this. That's a very functional way. That's your board of wise, centered guides and directors trying to help you really, really choose the better response and also to find the best possible outcome. So we want to lessen the grip of those three and we want to open the space and feel more resourceful and more empowered, that we've got more choice. So I hope you find this really useful. I tell you, when I found this strategy, and I learned it from my wonderful friends Jan Kelly and Gary Yardley, two extraordinary people, this changed my life. I saw dynamics in a whole new way. I started to unhook from patterns I didn't even know I had. And I notice now in this changing time and this uncertainty, there's a tendency for the three of them to pop up. We just don't want them running the show, do we? We want your wise, we want you centered, grounded board of directors. Thanks, everyone. Hope you find this as useful as I did. Lots of love to you and your family. Stay resourceful, stay well. Thank you.